Happy birthday, Anita Baker. And we welcome John Sellek now to the radio stage, the founder and CEO of the Michigan political consulting firm Harbor Strategic Public Affairs. And he was watching and listening, I'm not sure where, but the State of the State address yesterday at the Capitol and the Republican response by Eric Nesbitt. We spoke to the Senate Republican leader a little bit earlier this morning. He seemed in a decent mood, but a realistic mood. John Sellek, welcome to our AT&T lines. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here. I love Anita Baker, so happy birthday to her. And, last night I was doing my little pundit panel thing over at the offices of Kelly Cawthorn across from the Capitol. One of the important things that people do around the Capitol, Michael Patrick, we got to entertain ourselves during these speeches. They'll do like a word bingo. So, common words like grit or whatever we know the governor's probably going to say. Put your dime down, take a shot. I don't think anybody knew we were going to have Teddy Roosevelt, Ronald Reagan, Dan Campbell, and Ted Lasso, or our game would have been way more entertaining.
What do you make of all that? Who's writing these speeches now?
I think some smart people are writing these speeches. The governor is on a great level of message discipline. She ran for re-election last year not saying she's a big Democrat or progressive. She was the kitchen table governor. You're struggling to get your bills paid and do normal things. I'm going to be the person that gives you a little bit of health care. I'm not going to overpromise, but I'm going to get basic stuff done. And they're aiming for that middle ground. They've got the Democrat. They want to reach a little further into that footprint where even the abortion took them to, and do that on other issues like free pay, education, which means lots of money in your pocket because you don't have to go to daycare, stuff like that. And then you quote a few people to show that you're interested in more than just being a leftist. But you're quoting Reagan, you're quoting Roosevelt, and of course Dan Campbell's a popular guy right now, so all politicians are going to wrap themselves around popular sports.
Last night's...
I wouldn't be so sure I would hitch my wagon to the Lions just yet. Call me skeptical and dubious, but, I guess if you're going to go down with the ship, it doesn't much matter anyway. The mood of the people you were with yesterday in watching the speech when it was over, how would you describe it?
I would say that she met expectations. This wasn't any different of a speech than she's given before. I mean, she's got a certain level of political talent, and she's pretty consistent about hitting it. So, delivery-wise, spirit-wise, all that stuff is like, classic Governor Whitmer. But it's also clear she's planning on basically independent to soften Republican tariffs. She's talking about immediate tax relief, cutting taxes, and not talking about spending, but talking about putting money back in people's pockets. Last year, Democrats like Hillary Clinton, who won the congressional seat Peter Meyer used to have, she actually put the words on her ad right on the screen. Democrats need to stop this spending. She's a Democrat, so they know that was making people anxious. So now they've got $9 billion, Michael Patrick, to spend, and they don't want to say that it's blowing it all. So on the one hand, they give it back to you in tax cuts. On the other hand, they're spending it on your kids. But really, the double whammy there is that you also don't have to pay for daycare, so that's more money in your pocket. She's figured out how to talk about spending all that money without sounding like they're just drunkenly spend it like madmen.
So this pro-family cost reduction package came with a shout-out to Representative Joey Andrews, the Democrat from St. Joseph, who came back to work at the Capitol just hours after his daughter Violet was born. And the governor said, "Rep. Andrews, I hope you're enjoying some well-deserved time with your baby." And it didn't take long for Representative Tom Kuntz, the Republican from Clare, to shout out what he called the hypocrisy considering the governor's promotion of abortion. And he said if she had her way, that couple would have been allowed to abort that baby 2 days previous.
I had not seen that statement. Pretty shocking words this early in the morning. There's definitely the place where there still remains a huge divide. We might be able to find common ground on taxes between the two parties, the governor and the GOP, but they certainly don't agree on that. I saw some other comments when the concept of using abortion as an economic development tool was, quote, ghoulish. I think there's a lot of people get kind of squeamish when you're talking about it that way. I think she was more on the right track when the Democrats have long talked about why did we cede the word like freedom to the GOP and Donald Trump. So she used the word freedom to talk about like that and have control over those reproductive rights. I think she's on a better track when she talked about that. I also think what's interesting about how closely anybody outside will follow the Joey Andrews situation But the Democrats did a fabulous job in an unfair way of mocking the Republicans for saying, hey, you made this guy drive into Lansing after he had a kid. You know, I have 4 kids, so I totally get wanting to be with your newborn child, but he's also a state representative, and also the Democrats are in charge. They're ones scheduled to vote, and they didn't have all the their numbers in there. So it's kind of, to me, it's a learning lesson for them that if they're going to pass bills, they actually have to make sure they know where all their people are. But what they did show is they're pretty skilled at blaming the GOP for their mistakes.
Representative Jamie Green, Republican from Richmond, according to MERS News, said that would have liked to see more talk about parental involvement in education, and that parents have a seat at the table with teachers and administrators, particularly when it comes to the reading scores being as bad as they are in 3rd grade. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't think it's an area the Dems necessarily want to get into. That's when they think those are code words for the culture war.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go there. I mean, everything the governor talked about on all of her issues, even on gun safety, she tried so hard to separate it from any bit of the culture war. She went like above and beyond trying to explain that the gun safety issue was not about hunters and law-abiding citizens on both sides. I think on the education thing, she's trying to stick to the spending part. She's going to earn a lot of brownie points with, like I called it the daycare dividend when it was over. I didn't know I could have bought like a separate house with all the money I was spending on daycare back in the day. And so she's trying to stick to those economic issues. That's wide territory for her. I think soon enough, Michael Patrick, we know we're going to have lots to talk about fights that will be going on at the legislature. The governor's trying super hard during this first impressions period, both for Michigan voters, but for all those national people who are wondering if she's presidential timber. Can she take the reins? Can she govern and get some stuff passed before the sort of like far left and far right chaos takes over? And that's what she's trying to accomplish, I think, by watching what she said last night.
Do you think there was a little presidential posturing?
Yeah, absolutely. The whole way the speech is structured,
this video is for a lot of you who missed what just happened on the news last week.
The pop culture quotes with Ted Lasso, and the kitchen table issues part. She's trying to show, and a lot of reporters who call here into Michigan, they call up, like, hey, what do you think about this? So it looks like Michigan will be a progressive laboratory, right? But not so fast. That's not where the governor's going. She ran as somebody who is like fighting against inflation and out of control spending and kitchen table issues. She spent this last month since the New Year's telling the legislature, hey, don't go crazy. And I think the leadership has listened. Speaker Tate and Senate Speaker Pro Tem Lawyer Mahutski in the Detroit Free Press last week went on extensively about, hey, we're not going to jump the gun. We're not going to get into all these fighting issues. We're going to try to do the common ground issues. Now, the Republicans don't seem terribly interested in actually playing this nice because they haven't been invited to the table. So right now, the bipartisan stuff is on top.
Governor did say she wants the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act updated. Here she is.
Let's expand the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act so you can't be fired or evicted for who you are or how you identify or who you love. That's your business.
So there was at least a nod there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. And I think we saw in the reporting that there were several Republicans who stood and applauded that. It polls really well. I mean, there's a pretty big footprint of people that support doing that, and basically all they're doing now is codifying what the Michigan Supreme Court already said. So it's not exactly breaking new ground. It's just affirming.
Okay, John Sellek with perspective from Harbor Strategic
You already
Public
know
Affairs.
that Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan has the